We are living through an extraordinary moment in history. We are at a moment here in 2025 where we have revolutionary game-changing technologies. And if you look back in history from the invention of steam engines during the original industrial revolution to electricity, all the way to the internet, the smartphones, and the advent of the digital world, there have been three specific tipping points in history that triggered massive shifts. Economic changes that led widespread financial hardship for many, but also created a generational wealth level of opportunities like we have never seen. And these tipping points are usually what separates the early adopters who dig all of the gold mines and accumulate generational wealth from the late ones who try to get in when there's nothing left to mine. The dot-com gold rush, the advent of tech giants like Google, Amazon, Meta, and even more recently Bitcoin. How many times have you thought to yourself, what would have been happening if I was there early? The question is, how many more times is it going to take? For how much longer are you gonna keep telling yourself, oh, I wish I was there earlier? So look, if you did ever ask yourself that and miss one of the most huge opportunities, don't worry, because we all did once. And now, it's the perfect time for us to make this right together. All of these little wins will come to nothing compared to the hurricane that is about to hit. Right now, we are going through the biggest tipping point in history. Artificial intelligence is changing the way we learn, the way we make money, the way we do our jobs, the way businesses are created. It is essentially changing the way our society functions. Researchers are literally calling it the fourth industrial revolution, and you can either choose to ride this wave, or you can let it crush you. I want you to be on the right side of history. I want to show you how to not only get rich, but to be one of the pioneers of this AI revolutionary era. So my question to you is now, are you going to be part of the 99% that are going to say once again, oh, I wish I was there early? Or are you going to join me in making this the best decision that you have ever taken? I will show you the path, but it is up to you if you're going to take it. The impact of superhuman AI in the next decade will exceed that of the Industrial Revolution. That is the opening claim. Researchers predict that by 2027, we will have AI agents that are better than any human at every single task. We're talking about a machine running at 500 times human speed, accomplishing a year's worth of progress in 1 week. 1 week. But here's a question that kept coming back to my mind over and over for the past months. Haven't gone through stuff like this before? I mean, big technological changes that reshaped how society works. We have multiple times. So instead of trying to predict where this is going to end, why don't we just look back at this how ended before? Because the best way to tell what will happen in the future is to look back at what happened in the past. And what I've discovered is that there have been three previous junctures where society has found itself in the exact same place. 3 times where the way society runs was completely reshaped by new emerging technology. The best way to know what will happen in this new era revolution is by understanding what has happened during the 3 past industrial revolutions. So I started digging, not into AI technology, not into machine learning, but into history, into what actually happened to real, actual, everyday people during these technological revolutions. What happens to the millions of factory workers when machines took over production lines? What happened to telephone operators when automated switching systems has arrived? What happened to video store owners when Netflix went digital? But more importantly, what happened to the people who saw it coming, who positioned themselves correctly, who refused to be submissive to the world around them? So let me take you back, way back, to show you exactly what I discovered. Now I want you to close your eyes for a moment and imagine the year 1760. 80% of humanity works the land. Your grandfather was a farmer, your father was a farmer. Everyone assumed that you would be a farmer as well. This system hasn't changed in 1,000 years. But then, steam power has arrived. Between 1760 and 1840, in just 80 years, steam transformed civilization faster than any change in recorded history. But here's what they didn't teach you in school. It was absolutely devastating for the majority. You had master craftsmen who spent decades perfecting their skills, and they watched steam-powered machines do their life's work in minutes. What about the handloom weavers? These skilled artisans fed families for generations. They knew how the steam-powered looms operate by 6 years old that replaced the overnight. Thousands and thousands literally starved to death. What about the Luddites? Have you ever heard of them before? They were skilled textiles workers in 1800 England who watched steam-powered machines destroy their entire livelihoods overnight. You had a situation where you had desperate fathers watching machines destroy their entire livelihoods. So what did they do? They smashed the machines with hammers. The government response to this? They made machines breaking punishable by death. George Miller hung at 23. William Thorpe executed, left a widow and 4 children. They fought machines and machines won. And now, today we mock them, but they weren't wrong about what was coming. They were just wrong about how to stop it. They tried to destroy revolution instead of embracing it. Why millions suffered? A small group became unimaginably wealthy. Cornelius Vanderbilt built a railroad empire worth $185 billion in today's money. Let's take Carnegie. He used steam-powered steel production to accumulate $300 billion plus in today's dollar. Or the top dog of them all, Rockefeller. He leveraged steam-powered oil refining to become $400 billion in today's money. But here's what nobody tells you about this. And by the way, it's actually one of the most important parts of every big revolution. For every Rockefeller, there were thousands of regular people who simply chose the right side. The blacksmith who started repairing system engines instead of horseshoes. His shop became the local industrial hub. The farmer's daughter who learned to operate a loom, she became a factory floor supervisor making 10x her father's income. They weren't building empires. They were just smart enough to stop fighting the change and start riding it. Regular people making an income that none of their past generations would ever thought possible for their families. They were ordinary people who saw the pattern and positioned themselves correctly. While others destroyed machines with hammers, they took advantage with those same machines. The difference wasn't intelligence or luck or capital. It was something else. Something I would see repeated in every revolution. A specific decision, a moment of choice that separates the submissive from the ungovernables. And I will show you exactly what the decisions was later in this video. But here what should make your blood run cold. If it took 18 years for a scene to create winners and losers, what happens when next revolution moves twice as fast? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. Just as humanity was catching its breath from the steam, electricity arrived, and this time moved at lightning speed, 44 years from start to total transformation, nearly twice fast as the steam. I mean, think about that. Your grandfathers will completely erase before your children grow up. Fourth assembly lines reduced car production from 12 hours to 93 minutes. The model dropped from $825 to $260, and suddenly, everyone could afford what only the trick dreamed of. Gaslight industry employed hundreds of thousands of men who lit the streets every evening. Families whose entire identity was bringing light to darkness. Electrical boards killed them all in less than a decade. But nothing compared to what happened to horses. 3 million Americans work with horses and carriages. 3 million. Blacksmiths who went in the heart of every town. Saloons running businesses passed down from generation to generation. Carriage makers whose craftsmanship was considered art. The automobile thrown into ghosts. Master craftsmen who spent decades perfecting their trade, watching assembly lines eliminate not just their jobs, but the very need their existence. One assembly line worker trained in 3 days outproduced 5 masters with lifetimes of experience. But while these millions of people watched their world disappear, Edison built a fortune worth over $117 billion today. Ford accumulated over $200 billion. Westinghouse, $15 billion. For every Edison, there were thousands of ordinary people who simply chose the right side early. The gaslight lamp installer who took a course in electrical wiring, where he became the only electricity in 3 countries. He set up his grandchildren for life. The blacksmith's son who learned how to fix automobiles instead of horseshoes, while he opened the region's first car dealership. His family name is still on buildings today. Life-changing decisions, generational wealth. They weren't visionaries. They just saw which way the wind was blowing and they adjusted their sails. And here's the brutal truth about timing. Those who move in the first 10 years captured 90% of the opportunity. Those who waited for proof fought over the remaining 10% scraps. Those who resisted, well, they became cautionary tales. The pattern was becoming undeniable. Every revolution moves faster than the last. The window of opportunity shrinks and cost of resistance grows exponentially. But the third revolution, that is when the pattern became impossible to ignore, because this time the speed would double. Again, 1990 to 2010, the third industrial revolution, the digital one. 20 years, half the time of electricity, quarter of steam, and for the first time in history, we were watching it happen in real time. Your parents will definitely remember this, and maybe even a lot of you watching will remember those Friday nights at Blockbuster. That blue and yellow storefront, the smell of popcorn and plastic, 7,000 stores, 16,000 employees. Netflix started mailing DVDs. Blockbuster laughed, then panicked, then died. Tower Records, Border Books, Kodak, who literally invented digital photography. These are American institutions. Hundreds of thousands of employees gone. Amazon shipped books. iTunes sold songs. The technology that Kodak created literally killed them. The graphic designer who spent $100,000 on art school replaced by Canva templates that anyone could use. The journalist writing for local newspaper for 25 years replaced by bloggers working for free. The accountant doing taxes with a calculator and a ledger replaced by software like TurboTax. If you're 40 when you started, you were 60 when it ended. Too young to retire, but too old to start over. You were trapped. Bezos went from garage to $170 billion. Zuckerberg from dorm room to 3 billion users. The ones who didn't panic but knew how to make advantage of it, well, they made a lot of money. The graphic designer who lost agency clients, he started selling templates online. $20K a month in passive income. The journalist who gets laid off, well, he built an email newsletter. 50,000 subscribers paying $10 a month. That accountant was replaced by software. Well, he became a YouTube educator teaching small businesses figures annually. Same disruption, different choices. They didn't fight the technology. They became the bridge others needed to cross it. The pattern is unmistakable. Steam 80 years, electricity 44 years, and the internet 20 years. Each revolution halves the timeline. As I said in the beginning, best way to predict the future is by looking at the past. So it's only logical for us to assume that if the first revolution took 18 years, the second took 44, the third took 20, this fourth of revolution take about 10 years. I mean, do you think that's something totally out of this world to assume? I would say no. If we're looking at history, that sounds very reasonable to me. Now we need to pay attention to what makes this revolution different, because there's one fundamental change from everything we've seen before. And I'm going to show you exactly how this particular revolution is evolving right now. Let's go back to November 30th, 2022 at 2:13 p.m. Pacific time, because that's the exact moment everything changed. ChatGPT went live publicly. In 16 days, it reached 100 million users. The fastest adoption of any technology in human history. Radio took 38 years to reach that many people. The internet took 7. ChatGPT did it 2 months. But that unprecedented speed made me wonder if adoption is happening this fast, how fast is everything else moving? So I started digging, talking to researchers, reading reports that public ignores, and following the money. And that's when I found something very interesting. A specific report that Silicon Valley insiders were passing around that had politicians in closed-door sessions that made AI researchers nervous. For you to understand the magnitude of the report, I need to tell you about a gentleman called Daniel K. Now, he's not a YouTube guru, he's not a self-proclaimed expert. He's a researcher who quiet OpenAI over safety concerns. His track record is terrifyingly accurate. In 2021, before ChatGPT existed, he predicted everything. Chatbots exploding in 2023. Hundreds of millions of dollars in training runs. Government chip exports controls. Every single prediction came true. So when him and his team released AI 2027, everyone pay attention. The report doesn't talk about decades from now. It maps out month by month what is about to unfold. Now, according to the timeline, We are not at the beginning. We are already deep into the transformation, which by the way is basically what I've been telling you guys for months now. Summer 2025, AI agents start replacing entire departments, not helping replacing. By early 2026, these AIs began improving themselves, each generation designing its successor, the feedback loop every researcher expects. By 2027, the report describes Agent 3, an AI that codes better than any human. They predict companies are going to run 300,000 identical copies of it at once. Each copy is worth 500 times human speed. That is like having 150 million programmers working 24/7. And the crazier part is that they claim the infrastructure for this already exists. When Instagram sold for $1 billion, they had 13 employees. When WhatsApp sold for 90 billion, they had 55 employees. Massive value, minimum workforce. Now imagine that pattern applied everywhere. But what do these numbers actually mean for regular people, for you and me? Well, Goldman reports mentions 300 million jobs affected. You see in previous revolutions, affected means transitions. Weavers became factory workers, farmers became industrial laborers, a typist became data entry clerks. But when AI can do cognitive work, when it can think, write, analyze, create, let's think for a second. The internet was a tool to help you to do your work faster, better, and more efficiently. AI is a tool that does the work for you. The internet helps you research to write better answers. AI write the answers for you. The internet connected you to the customers. AI handles the customers for you. Think about what 300 million jobs affected actually looks in reality. That is the entire workforce of the United States and Europe combined. Picture a college graduation 5 years from now. You have computer science majors, engineering grads, even MBAs. They have done everything right, studied hard, took on depth. But what if AI can do everything they trained to do? But for cheaper, what are these people actually going to work on? This is the one question I set out to answer with this entire research. And after an immense amount of work I put into this is the conclusion that I got to. Here's what history teaches us. Every revolution creates two groups. Those who insist on competing against the new technology, the submissives, and those who learn to work with it, the ungovernables. Which brings us exactly to what the researchers are saying today. AI will not replace people who use AI. It will replace the ones who don't. And here's the part should give you hope. Right now, the tools to position yourself on the winning side are out there and they are accessible to the everyday person. No degree required. You don't need tens of thousands of dollars of capital. No technical knowledge necessary. You just need to understand which path that you are on. So let me show you exactly what these two paths look like. The one who embraced the revolution and the path who decide to resist it. Because once you see the difference, you will exactly which side of the equation that you want to be on. And this is a speculation. It's what we are already seeing right now. There are millions of professionals who still haven't even touched AI. They are still writing every email from scratch, still creating every presentation manually, still analyzing data the way they learned 10 years ago. Now they have their reasons. Oh, AI can't capture my words. Nothing beats human creativity. My clients want personal touch. And by the way, they're not actually wrong with that. But they're missing something critical. While they craft one perfect email in 30 minutes, their competitors generate 10 variations in 10 seconds. They pick the best one and they moved on. While they build one presentation over 3 days, their competitors create 5 proposals in one afternoon. It is about scale, and here is what history shows us happen next. You remember blockbusters? Well, they didn't disappear because Netflix had better movies. They disappeared because Netflix was more convenient. You remember taxi drivers? They were replaced by Uber drivers were better. They were replaced. Uber was once tap away on your phone. The pattern here is very, very clear. You don't need to be better than humans. You just need to be good enough and faster. By the way, I'm literally watching this happen in front of my eyes right now. You have graphic designers who spend years perfecting their craft. Now clients can use AI to get it done cheaper and faster. You have entire customer service teams being replaced by chatbots. Now chatbots aren't better at empty. The people being let go aren't bad at their jobs. They're just more expensive than AI.